Hello, would you like to join me in the ceramics studio today? I'll show you how to hand build a pothead. Today we are working in the Northwest Vista Outdoor Ceramics Studio and I'm going to be wearing my Cracker Barrel apron. Yes, I did work there long enough to get all 4 of my stars. We're getting down and dirty today, so we gotta wrap it up before we smack it up. First step in the process is to wedge the clay, which is a technique to get all of the air bubbles out so that when you fire it in a kiln it won't explode, which has happened to me before. It really sucks. Now we're gonna walk on over to the slab roller, which is basically this little device. It just helps me kind of evenly flatten out the clay so that I can build a nice base for my mug. Once I've got that peeled and scooped up, I walked back to my little crafting station and I just flattened it out a little bit more. I don't want the walls to be too thick, but I also don't want them to be too thin. I'm gonna save these little excess noodles for later, and once I've got all that stuff cut off, I'm just gonna go ahead and start forming the mug, and then once again cutting off the excess and using that for the bottom of the cup. The next step in the process is a very important step, which is called scoring, in which you use a sharp tool to make some ridges where you will join the clay together so that it holds as best as it can and it won't come apart. To make the mug even more secure, we're going to use slip, which is a mixture of clay and water to make kind of like a glue substance. Compress the clay pretty hard so that essentially it becomes just like one thing instead of 2 separate shapes coming together. Just compress it, squish it so hard that now it's just this one form, especially since we're making something to drink out of. I'll also go back in with some extra clay and re-secure that little crack and seal it up. After that, I just make sure that everything is connected properly. I use a little ribbing tool on the bottom. Yeah, after it looks suitable to me, I just jump right into sculpting the eyebrows and cheekbones. I think that is pretty much like the most prominent part of a face. When you look at people, the things that really stick out are their bone structure, so I always really go for that first. And after the cheekbones and eyebrows look like it's a good structure and it already kind of feels like it has a certain characteristic to it, I jump into where I want the eyes to be and the lips. I like to think of the face in layers when I'm sculpting, so the eyes typically are at the bottom, and putting the eyelids and eye bags on top of that just helps you to frame it better. Then when I feel like I have a good foundation for the eyes, I go ahead and start focusing on the nose, making the bridge, and setting the schnauzer up for success. I build the bulk of the nose in my hand first, and then I slip it, score it, and attach it on. And then I kind of adjust after I put it on, you know, like adding clay in certain areas, painting over it, smoothing everything over so it looks natural. And yeah, my mug was pretty much looking like this at this point, and I really needed to pee, so I took myself a little bathroom break, and then I got right back to it. I'm very inspired by southern face jugs, or also called ugly jugs. They feature sculpted, often grotesque human faces, and they were created originally from enslaved African American potters in South Carolina, and they later became a southern folk art tradition. I really love making jugs and mugs of older people. I love how many textures they have, with their wrinkles and crow's feet, smile lines. I love when my mugs have that dimension of someone that's lived a long, happy life. This mug is coming along pretty well. I was just kind of finishing up the cupid's bow and the details on the eyes. With this mug, I was going for a more sad, perpetually concerned expression, and yeah, it was honestly, I was pretty satisfied with how it was looking at this point. There were only a few finishing details that I wanted to add, like, you know, some texture on the lips. And then of course I had to get started on making the ear for this very sad and desolate mug. I think I'm gonna name her Sylvia, because when I think of sad, desolate people, I think of Sylvia Plath and her book The Bell Jar. And I feel like this mug is definitely giving very feminine energy. But I'm gonna square that ear, put it on there, and then it's time to give this bad boy a handle. And for the handles, because the clay is so wet and also heavy, it is gonna kind of droop a little bit, so I normally put like a little just something to help it stand up to how I want it to dry. And now that I have got the handle on and pressed it on there really well, I'm just smoothing everything over and fixing things as I see fit, adding all the finishing touches, and that's it. That is pretty much my process for making face jugs, ugly jugs. They go by many different names, they come in many different forms, but they're all beautiful, and this one is one of mine. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate you so much, and I hope that you have a lovely day. Bye.